So I basically had three careers. When I started working after my studies, I started in marketing. And I worked at FedEx and at Coca-Cola in the market research department. So being responsible for tracking market share, doing some surveys, panel interviews, things like that. Then I eventually moved over to Mastercard, working in the payments world. But initially, my work there was focused around finance and pricing. So essentially adapting the prices of our different services to the needs and the demand in the market. I was able then to move to the US, where I had different positions, and my last position was responsible for digital payments, but again from the finance angle. And that's my second career, was that finance career. But my last career has everything to do with the more commercial part. And now I'm responsible for the country. So I'm the country manager for Belgium and Luxembourg for Mastercard. And to answer your question on, is there something that translates across all of these different careers? I think the key thing is data. When I started in market research, that was based on data. When I worked in finance, that was based on data. And now in my day-to-day work, data is still a very important part of what I do. And that's sort of the fil rouge, as they say in French, when it comes to my career. The way that a consumer shops has tremendously changed over the last 15 years. Initially, you were shopping into a department store or at your local shop, and a lot of the transactions were done digitally. And in that age, Mastercard had everything to do with plastic. You were using your plastic credit card, your plastic Mastercard to actually buy different goods. But over the last 15 years, all of that has completely changed. Because what's happening is that more and more business is obviously done in e-commerce. And in e-commerce, you need to think about the convenience that the consumer wants. And more, the consumer is looking for solutions in terms of payment that are extremely easy, but that don't trade off to security. And if you think about it, today when you're making a transaction, you need to get your card out, you put your card number in, and you're going to identify yourself through a code. That is a little bit, an old-fashioned way of working. And what we're looking at here at Mastercard is to bring that to the next level. And the next level has everything to do with working on that convenience. And what that means is, for example, one of the things that we want is to replace the passcode, the code that you have to enter when you make a transaction online, with a biometric authentication, making it a lot more simple, making it a lot more seamless, and eventually getting to payments that are essentially frictionless. My message is that AI is a force for good. Often when we talk about big data, when we talk about artificial intelligence, we see the risk that it involves. And it's absolutely true that we need to be aware of them. But in many cases, AI is going to be a force for good. In the case of Mastercard, we're using all of this data to prevent and to detect fraud. And we're capable of doing that only through the force and the speed and the capabilities that artificial intelligence bring to us. And if you think about other industries, whether it's healthcare, where they're going to be able to identify diseases very early on, whether it's education, you can see that AI is actually going to help in many cases. So we need to be open to the technology, but we need always to place it within a framework where the human comes first. The human needs to look at how the data is being used, how AI is guiding their principles and different applications, but the human has always to come first. And when that is the case, I'm pretty confident that AI is going to be a force for good.